Let me read to you a passage from the 7th chapter of St. John's Gospel, verses 40 to 53. It's the Gospel for Saturday of the 4th week of Lent. St. John writes, "On hearing Jesus' words, some of the people said, 'Surely this man is the prophet.' Others said, 'He is the Christ.' Still others asked, 'How can the Christ come from Galilee? Does not the Scriptures say that the Christ will come from David's family and from Bethlehem, the town where David lived?' Thus the people were divided because of Jesus. Some wanted to seize him, but no one laid a hand on him. Finally the temple guards went back to the chief priests and Pharisees, who asked them, 'Why did you not bring him in?' 'No one ever spoke the way this man does,' the guards declared. 'You mean that he has deceived you also?' The Pharisees retorted. 'Has any of the rulers or of the Pharisees believed in him?' 'No, but this mob that knows nothing of the law, there is a curse on them.' Nicodemus, who had gone to Jesus earlier and who was one of their own number, asked, 'Does our law condemn a man without first hearing him to find out what he is doing?' They replied, 'Are you from Galilee too? Look into it, and you will find that a prophet does not come out of Galilee.' Then each went to his own home." That's from John chapter 7, verses 40 to 53. What does it suggest to us? Well, it tells us about faith and the human heart. Our passage today ends on a somber note, which has significance for every person of every place. We are told that the chief priests and the Pharisees, having declared that a prophet does not come out of Galilee, then went each to his own home. Let us imagine the body of the leaders of the council, gathered perhaps in the temple precincts, and filled with anger and consternation at the fearlessness of Jesus Christ, speaking elsewhere in the same temple. They had sent the temple guard to bring our Lord before them, but once in the presence of Jesus, the guard were captivated and helpless. Spellbound at his words and at his person and his teaching, they listened and watched, as did the people. They were not prejudiced in heart against our Lord, and could not bring themselves to arrest him. His spiritual majesty was so evident, and his teaching so exalted. So they returned, for they knew that they were being awaited, and could only say, "No one ever spoke the way this man does." We may say that this judgment encapsulates John the Evangelist's view of the situation. No one in all the history of God's chosen people spoke as Jesus Christ spoke, and no other man in all of history has spoken as he spoke. This was because it was the incarnate God himself who was speaking. Yet, mysteriously, the response of man was profoundly mixed. This indeed is a mysterious phenomenon, because one would have expected that in the nature of the case, the creature would instinctively respond in an entirely positive fashion to the words of his loving Creator, even if, due to the incarnation, his Creator were not immediately recognized. But no, the response to our Lord was mixed. Though many of the people accepted him, many others were divided about him. The leaders in the main were against him. Christ had but limited success, and his success has been limited ever since. Many rejected him, as do many still. In order to understand the roots of this rejection, let us consider especially those who rejected him entirely. I refer to the leaders of the people. To the testimony of the guards, the religious leaders replied, "You mean he has deceived you also?" There was a profound prejudice at work in their hearts that impeded any listening on their part. Has any of the rulers or of the Pharisees believed in him? No, but this mob that knows nothing of the law, there is a curse on them. So they supported one another in their blindness, choosing to view those who followed our Lord as being under a curse. The situation is further illustrated by the question of Nicodemus, one of one of the disciples, a secret one, and one of the Sanhedrin. The loyalty of Nicodemus to our Lord, incidentally, shows that our Lord had at least a small following even among the leaders. Joseph of Arimathea was also among them. We remember that sometime later the infant church records a considerable number of priests entering the church in Acts chapter 6 verse 7. Be that as it may, Nicodemus objected, "Does our law condemn a man without first hearing him to find out what he is doing?" The leaders refused even to hear our Lord with an open heart and to find out what he was doing. Their heart was set against him, and they would not listen. Of course, they did not know or intimate that he was divine, and all of our Lord's allusions to this stupendous fact fell on stony hearts. In this sense, they did not know what they were doing. On the cross, our Lord asked his Father to forgive them, for they did not know what they were doing. But it is equally clear that they were responsible for their ignorance. They were blind, but their blindness was due to their moral fault. Their hostility grew apace with our Lord's ministry, and as our Lord revealed more and more of his powers, his person, and his teaching, so did their hatred of him increase. The final scene in this drama is, of course, Calvary, in which our Lord is hanging from the cross and the religious leaders are jeering at him. They did not realize that they were jeering at God, dying in his humanity for love of mankind. It is a remarkable phenomenon in history. Let us draw from this spectacle a sense of the horror of sin and what it leads to. Faith in Jesus Christ and the perception of the true nature of his person depends on our moral condition. It is not just an intellectual matter, divorced from one's state of heart. What we see depends, in this sense, on what we are. Blessed are the pure of heart, our Lord said, for they shall see God. The mixed response to our Lord was a result of the mixed moral condition of those who viewed and heard him. Let us strive for true goodness of heart, for this is the foundation and the requirement for a true faith.